everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is Sippin' Tea with Nat and Z. I'm Nat.
I'm Z.
Welcome
Good.
back.
Yes, we were on a little hiatus for
Yes.
multiple reasons. Um,
Yes.
some of those reasons are actually still very apparent.
Yeah.
I have been a little under the weather, and it
Mm-hmm.
seems to happen a lot around this time. I feel like I've been sick a lot on this, and I've coughed a lot on this, and had to,
You've had your moments, but I wouldn't
yeah.
say it's a recurring issue.
No, okay.
Intermittent,
Yes, and
episodic,
yes,
we'll
yes,
say. It's been
yes,
episodic.
yes. So, and I've just been trying to get it together.
Right.
I've had some, other things going on as well. So, it is what it is. It shall be what it shall be.
Finally, we went on vacation
Oh yeah, you
af-
did. You did.
after
Yes.
6 years. Only took
Mhm.
6 years. So I'm thankful that I was able to go.
Mhm.
Um, St. Lucia was beautiful. It is a beautiful, beautiful country. Oh my goodness. Did the mud baths and
Mhm.
the sulfur springs and the stuff. Let me tell y'all, that mud bath stuff, they be putting in the packs. I don't know if that's the same mud that they sell you in the store,
Mhm.
but you go into that, you get the mud on you and you sit and you let it harden and detoxify, and you get in this hot ass springs where you're about to
Mhm.
boil your foot bottom, and you come out and you have like the softest skin for like days.
Really?
Days. Like it was we were all kind of amazed how long. And this is from like going in the ocean, going in the pool, and our skin still was like amazingly soft.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. And we went to a waterfall that nearly knocked us out because it came down so hard, but it was really nice and zip lining and stuff. So enjoyable. Had some meditation time in the morning. Got up and meditated on the beach every morning. It was great.
Well, that's good.
It was
So
a lot
we,
of introspective, no more Reikio type
I can,
stuff.
I can respect that. I can respect that. Oh, I went on vacation, didn't
Yeah,
I?
you
Yes,
did.
I
You
did.
went to
We went
Puerto
to Puerto
Rico, right?
Rico. Yes, we went to
Yeah.
Puerto Rico.
Puerto
Duh.
Rico.
Oh, um, yeah, we went to. Oh, it's funny that you said that. So I just saw this meme, right?
Uh-huh.
Where it was like, well, it's an Instagram video where, because when you said Puerto Rico and I said ho,
Yeah.
um, this girl goes into her office, and of course, it's mainly white people in there.
Uh-huh.
So she goes into her office and she goes up to somebody and she says, "Sim Simma," and then
Who
the
got the
person,
keys to my bimmer?
okay, but most of the people were like, this. She went up to the first guy and he was like, "Sim Simma," and then she just started busting out laughing. So she goes to somebody else and she's like, "Sim Simma," and he's like, "Sim Simma." So she goes to this one white dude and she's like, "Sim Simma." He's like, "Who got the keys to my beamer?" He gets up and starts whining. That shit was so funny. And it just made me think about that because that is something that is like very unique to
Yes.
our experience. Like you
Yes.
literally could say something and people will do a call and response.
So
Like if you
true.
just automatically say Puerto Rico, people are gonna be like, home.
Right.
Like if you
That is
came up to me
so
and said Sim
true.
Simma, I'm gonna be like, who got the keys to
Keys
my
to my
beamer?
bimmer.
But
That
but
is
yeah.
so true. That happened at the teppanyaki place at
Mm-hmm.
the resort. Our chef was like, "All right, all right, all right," and like the call and response with our two
Mm-hmm.
tables was fire. And then you saw the other table with the other folks, and he was trying to do it, and it was like crickets. It was just amazing to
Yeah, because that's
see it in real life. Like they really. Oh wow,
but if you think about it, it is cultural. Our
it
our
is
whole cultural, our whole background, it's in our DNA. Call and response is
call and
in our
response.
DNA.
It
It's just
is.
been,
It
it's
is.
in our DNA. So we're always going to be on point with call and
We
response.
good for some call and responses though.
Oh, we are. We absolutely are. We
That and
absolutely are.
absolutely. We tried to do swag and surf during a foam party with half of the pool not looking like us, and the other half of the pool's like, what's going on?
Well, because it's not in the DNA.
Yeah,
Things
not
are
in your
not in the
dinner.
DNA.
Not
In
in
the
your
dinner.
dinner. Not
Yes.
in the dinner.
Um,
Anyway, what are we talking about today?
Today's topic is actually, and excuse me, I am hoarse, raspy, and I will be coughing, is
Mm-hmm.
about the missing white woman syndrome. So we don't have hot tea. We don't have like the tea on the table. I mean, there are some things we could talk about,
Yeah.
um, like Mama Tina and her husband divorcing,
Who?
and Tina Knowles, Beyonce's mom, and her husband are divorcing after 8 years.
Richard Lawson?
Yeah, Richard Lawson. My divorce. See, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
It's
Every
in our
just know.
DNA.
You just know.
Um, so
Oh
they
no.
and it's funny, the streets are saying like a couple weeks ago she had reported, or maybe like a week or two ago, she had reported that someone stole like over $1 million worth of jewelry out of her home.
Oh.
And people are saying it was him that stole it.
Hmm?
Like he basically came back in the house and was like, fuck you, I'm taking your shit and rolling, like that type of shit. I don't know. I'm not gonna believe that older people would act like that, but who's to say, right?
Mm-mm. It
Um,
don't matter what age you are.
right, it doesn't matter. And that's
Assholes
about
have no age.
yeah, and that's about it. Like I'm
Hmm.
getting ready to get my entire life for Beyonce next week.
Oh, that is
Actually,
next
this week
week. It's
it's
this
at
week.
this it'll be it's next week this Sunday.
Oh, it's this Sunday.
It's next
Nice.
Sunday. So yes. So
Okay, Renaissance.
so I checked the weather. It's not gonna be raining. It's gonna be a nice 84,
Okay.
which means it's probably gonna be giving 77 at night. I'm gonna have
Yes.
on some leather shorts. It's gonna
Okay.
be
Excuse me.
it's gonna be everything
Excuse me. Where is it?
at FedEx Field.
Oh, it's at FedEx.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, 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 yeah. So it's going to be giving. Um,
Lovely.
I'm fully prepared to be partying, dancing, getting
As you
my
should
entire
be.
life.
As you
Like
should.
I
Embrace
just,
it. I'm
you know what
telling
it
you.
is. I feel like also, even if you're not, like, let's say you're not a fan of Beyonce, right? I kind of feel like it's still a way to just let go and just be free. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I feel like this album, this last album for me was completely like that was what it meant to me. Just
Uh-huh.
letting go and just being free. Like not
But I
caring
think
what
also
anybody else
just
says.
being present in light of
Yes.
everything that's going on, and I think I said this when I went to the Janet Jackson concert, who I've loved forever. And like everyone was standing there recording, even when Little Kim was on stage. But I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
but are you being free? Are you
Present.
enjoying the
Right.
moment? You know what I mean?
I haven't like I didn't take a lot of pictures in Puerto Rico really. My husband did, but
Uh-huh.
but he's like one of those people that likes to explore and take pictures and stuff like that. I
Uh-huh.
just wanted to be in the moment and just experience what I was
Yes.
experiencing and letting all of my senses take it in
Exactly.
as
Same here.
opposed to taking photos of
The
it. You
whole
know what I
time,
mean?
yeah. Because I
And then
didn't take that
going
many either.
yeah, and then going back and be like, I don't remember that, or I don't remember that, or
Right.
that's not, but anyway,
So true.
um, I, you know,
I'm excited for you.
I'm
The last couple
like,
times I saw Beyonce was amazing. It
I'm
was a
gonna
long
be up
time
in
ago,
there
but
like, drop it like a thotty,
uh,
drop it like a thotty. I plan on getting my entire life. So whoever is
as
around
you
me,
should move
it
over.
should be like with it. And I don't know if we told you if we had discussed this a lot of time, but like me and Tisha were on ticket like patrol, and we didn't coordinate. We both bought tickets thinking, okay, I'm gonna get the tickets so we
Right.
can have them. She's like, I'm gonna get the tickets so we can have them, and then we wound
Mm-hmm.
up getting 4 tickets. So she's going with Kim,
Uh-huh.
and then I'm going with Bridget,
Oh,
and it's
I
gonna
love
be
it.
it's gonna be an experience because me and Bridget are like definitely
Oh my goodness.
we are Beyonce.
Yes.
We are of we are
We know how Bridget is with Beyonce.
we are of the hive, not in the hive. We're like
You're hive adjacent?
hive adjacent. Bridget actually might be in the hive.
I'm like,
I'm
I
hive
thought Bridget's
adjacent.
in the hive though.
She might be.
Yeah.
And then Kim and Tisha are like, I'm just going to just have a good
Enjoy.
time and enjoy and
Right.
just, see Beyonce just.
I'm excited for y'all. Live y'all best life. And I'm telling you, I was on vacation and found out one of my coworkers passed away. One of my close coworkers passed
Oh,
away
wow.
in a
Sorry to
freak
hear
accident that happened. I don't know. You heard about Georgetown and the lady who passed away in Georgetown
that.
in the
Mm-mm.
garage, in the parking garage.
No.
Oh yeah, there was a lady who was in Georgetown parking garage. This is while I was in St. Lucia, and a car went out of control, plowed down 5 or 6 people in the parking garage at Georgetown and hospital. And she was one of the people. She had just retired, not even 6 months ago.
This is what I'm telling
Yo,
you.
enjoy
Enjoy
it
your
and be
life.
present, because I was
Yes.
so present when I was in St. Lucia. After I heard that, like I heard it midway, and it was sad and it was jarring, and I had recently lost another friend and coworker at work about a month ago, and I'm telling you, be present in your experiences for whatever it is that you're doing
You
moving
have to
forward.
be.
You
You
have to
have to
be.
be.
It is so key. Which is why what we're talking about today is just that much more disturbing because people don't value their lives or our lives on multiple
Oh,
levels.
they don't. They don't. So you know what we'll do? Let's take a quick break so we can cough and do all that, and then come
Mhm.
back with the topic, which is missing white women syndrome.
Okay.
And we are back. Today's topic, as we said, was the missing white woman syndrome. We thought this was definitely a good time to have this conversation. We've had this on the agenda for some time,
Mhm.
but we just on the topic list, whatever you want to call it, but we
Yeah.
just never got around to it. And then this whole Carly Russell thing happened. I was like, okay, clearly this is the perfect
Lord.
time to kind of address this, because this whole situation is just a lot.
Yeah,
So
it's a lot.
so so we're going to dive into a topic that has sparked intense conversation excuse me about media bias and racial disparities, the missing
Mhm.
white woman syndrome. It is important, and I want to stress this, that we're not diminishing, I'm just highlighting that we're not diminishing the significance of any missing persons case, right?
Mhm.
Be they white, black, Asian,
Right.
trans,
All of that.
cisgender. I'm using that term. If you don't like it, kick rocks. Um, However, the media's selective coverage can perpetuate biases and really reinforce racial disparities.
Yeah.
And doing this, I'll even say one of the demographics that's probably worse than ours, and ours meaning Black women, is Native American
Oh my
women.
goodness, yes.
Please take a minute, if you can, to just do some research on the number of Native American women that go missing.
It's astounding.
You would be surprised. And there's no coverage, there's no resources for them, there's no help, there's
Nothing.
nothing.
No
There's
type of
nothing.
coverage.
Nothing.
Nothing
It
at
is
all. They
sad
just
and
throw away.
alarming. Yeah. It's
The
sad and alarming.
and if like
Um,
people see that for one population, like obviously you can infer that it's going to happen to another.
right. And they have been so marginalized that, I
Yes.
mean, you forget about them. Like, they're never in, even in the sphere, they're in
Mm-mm.
the topic of conversation. So
Ever.
um missing oh, and with that too, I will say there was something I just learned about when I was doing this research about Native American women, that during that if a Native American woman would get pregnant, when she would go to get an abortion, they would give her a hysterectomy.
Oh my goodness. That's insane. That they were doing that on the border with
They were
the
doing that on the
Latino.
reservations. They would, if you went to, as a Native American woman, if you would go get an abortion, a lot of times they were giving you a hysterectomy so you couldn't have any more children.
Dear God.
And we're not talking about like, we're not talking about like 60s, 70s. Like, we're
Right.
talking about recent 80s,
Recent.
90s they were doing this. You
While
understand
we
what I'm
while we're
saying?
alive and
So
grown.
this is, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Um, so what is the definition? The definition of the missing white woman syndrome is actually a term that I just found out was coined by Gwen Ifill,
Mhm.
who also has her own
Right.
sordid history. If
Yes.
y'all know, if you don't, go look up Gwen
Yeah, go
Ifill.
look it up.
Um, I love Gwen Ifill. Don't
She's
get me wrong,
amazing.
but towards the end, well, let me say towards the end, but she had some. She
Character
was,
building situations, we'll
yes,
say.
that's the perfect way to describe it. But I love Gwen
Yes.
Ifill. She's a
Yeah, she's
bad
awesome.
bitch.
She's
So,
amazing.
and it basically refers to the disproportionate media coverage and public attention given to cases of missing or abducted white women compared to individuals of other races or ethnicities who go missing under similar circumstances. So, in addition to race and class, because that's generally what it starts with.
Right.
It starts with race and class, right?
Right.
So if
Race
you're
usually
higher
comes out
race,
first though.
yeah, so the race that they feel is deemed to be better, which is
Mhm.
typically white, is going to get the coverage first.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, class based. Were
Yes.
they rich? Did they come from a good family?
Mhm. What they consider good,
Right.
i.e. rich.
Exactly. And then it starts to go on attractiveness,
Mm.
body size, youthfulness. All of these things have been identified as unfair criteria in the determination of newsworthiness and the coverage of missing women, right?
Mhm.
And if you look at it, yes, compare it to the relative lack of attention towards missing women who are not
Mhm.
white. We just talked about Native American women, black women, we've just talked about that, lower social classes, or missing men and boys.
That too. You
So
don't really see that at all
you really don't.
either. You
You
really
really don't.
don't.
You don't. And but even with that, if it was a white boy from a very affluent family,
Hmm?
they probably would get more coverage than a
Yes.
black woman from a lower income neighborhood.
Yeah. Or
I
even
mean,
a black woman that's affluent.
true, it's possible.
It's
But
very
yeah,
possible.
yeah. So this weird thing that happens is that because of this white woman syndrome, this missing white woman syndrome, it's led to this phenomenon where a lot of laws get named after, like these tough on crime measures get named after these white women
Hmm.
and white girls. One of them is Megan's Law, right? And that's named
Yep.
after a young white girl named Megan Can- Kanika. She was raped and killed by a neighbor who was a convicted sex offender, unbeknownst to her family, and who settled in their community in New Jersey after being released from prison. And because of that, it was such an outrage that they enacted a law after her that made sex offenders' residency and work addresses made available to the public.
Mm.
That's Megan's Law. We all know Megan's Law,
Yep.
right?
It's become part of our, our whole fabric at this
Right.
point.
We have Amber Alert. That is also based off of a
Hmm.
white girl. There's another law called Pamela's Law, which was passed in 2011, and it was based off of a situation where this girl named Pamela Schmidt, who went to Rutgers, was killed by a gentleman, I believe he was another student, who was under the influence of bath salts, that
Mm.
MDPV,
Hmm.
um, and he got charged with her murder.
I still don't understand that concept of the
So,
bath salts thing, but okay.
right, when we talk about this syndrome, it's
Hmm.
not something that's made up. There's
Right.
concrete evidence, concrete facts, concrete examples of how this all plays out. And as we get further and dig deeper into this episode, you're going to hear us talk about so many situations where this is so apparent. And I
Hmm.
guarantee you, when we talk about these things and we compare and contrast, you will always I can guarantee you everybody will be like, yeah, I've heard of the white woman, but
Yes.
I did not hear of the counterpart. I've never heard of the counterpart.
Never. And it's so pervasive that it's kind of become accepted
Mm-hmm.
that you assume when there is news coverage that it's some people assume it's the same, or they just assume that black people never go missing.
Right.
It's to that point
Right.
because it's never the news coverage is so minimal that people just don't think we go missing.
Or
Contrary, go ahead, go ahead.
no, it's not even so much we do go missing, but I think, and I think we'll touch on this at some points in this, but
Mhm.
it's also when it comes to black missing boys and
Mhm.
girls, young men and women, it's always more so they ran away, they
Yes.
left on their own accord,
Mhm. As if it makes it any better.
not, hey,
Ah, yeah.
when did somebody take them?
Right.
Did somebody do something to them? It's always they must have left on their own accord.
Right.
They must be a runaway. Oh, this is
Right.
what they wanted.
Right. And I think part of that stems from, well, who would want to capture a
Ah,
little
yep,
brown or black
yeah,
child?
yeah,
Like, who would want to do that?
yeah,
Unfortunately, and I feel that that's where that stems from subliminally.
yeah,
That, like, well, of course they ran away because who would want to, abduct them
yeah.
because of the historical and racial systematic racism that exists in this country.
Mm-hmm.
And, and the one thing I think is surprising, which you wouldn't know from the news media, is that approximately 100,000 black girls and women went missing in the US last year. Some have been trafficked, abducted by people in their close circles, which I think happens more often than people would like to admit,
Yeah.
because it's the family members of a brother, uncle so and so, auntie so and so, because I don't want to be versus sex or whatever, but of who gets abducted and then some by strangers. Now, if you look at the news coverage for missing black women, they're usually, and we see this on multiple levels, from the riot or looting versus, oh, they were just having a row after being excited because of a win, but let it be black people, it's a riot. So as far as, if it's a black person that's gone missing, they're going to focus on the victim's problems, such as, oh, well, they were in an abusive relationship with an abusive boyfriend. If they have criminal and drug
Mm-hmm.
history
Yep.
and
Yep.
addiction, they will zero in on that so quickly.
Yep.
Versus their counterpart of white women, to look at their roles of mothers, daughters, students, what their contributions to society has been. They paint them as a picture. They paint them in a picture of being human, and that they should not have been abducted because look at all the things that they're doing. Whereas if you go on the counterpart, there's being seen as uh, a burden to society of some way, shape, or form. And then social media has definitely played a significant role and trying to control the traditional narrative of what's going on. But it has empowered communities to amplify their voices of those of those populations that have been marginalized repeatedly, and it does offer an opportunity to shed light on these missing persons, because now we can have like a voice. So I'm more inclined to see, or apt to see, a missing person of color on Instagram or maybe Facebook than I would in the media.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
You
I
know.
think most of the missing information I've received about Black people has
Mm-hmm.
been because of social media.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And then the regular news coverage has yet to catch up. It's only
Because
like just
yeah, I mean, but even with if you don't even look at the missing person stuff, look at the Trayvon Martin. That by the
mhm.
time we heard about it, it had already been like a month,
Right.
I think, since the incident had happened. And we found out about it through social media. I
Right.
found out about it through Facebook. It was like a Facebook, like it spread like wildfire. And I kind of feel like that was like the first incident in which social media was used to
Mhm.
bring light to situations like this. Because
Mhm.
before that, I don't really remember a social media campaign that was so successful and getting people to be aware of the situation.
Yeah.
And again, this had happened. It was already like a month that had passed when that had happened.
And it happens so often that we don't hear about it until a month later. Even
Yeah.
with, this is a quick departure, but that 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 beast of a female who shot the mom through the door. It was 4 days until it made news. Like when you shot the mom through the front door in front of her child, and it took 4 days for it to reach media? Like, that's just insane to me. And charged her and let her go home and all that other stuff.
And
But that
again, if you look,
media was
yeah,
not there.
and then look at the news coverage. They
Yep.
talked about the mother, how
Yep.
oh, she was aggressive to them before, and this is did it.
Yes.
It was never like this is a mother shot and killed in
In
front
front of her
of her
child.
child.
For no for
And
with no provocation.
I'm sorry, this is why Florida is not getting none of my money. Why are we? She had a gun. This woman didn't have a weapon. How are you in
Right.
fearful? How are you in fear of your life in your home,
Behind the
behind your
door.
door, with it locked and a
Yes.
gun?
But
Like, how is she going to harm you?
exactly.
But
Yeah. But yeah, and that goes to the invisibility versus hyper visibility of certain things. So
Mm,
you're looking at the politics of invisibility, which occurs within the policy making, within the news media, academy, and medicine, which I definitely see being in the healthcare field. Certain things are definitely focused upon more in certain populations than others. Working in the field that I work in, I definitely see more attention in the negative way given to Black women who have contracted HIV versus their counterparts. And it's not in a good way, even though I know there's women that are not brown or Black that have contracted it, but the focus that they put on it and the hypervisibility of that to make it look like Black women are out here just running these streets,
mm-hmm.
unfortunately, right? Um, and it results in their failure to represent or include Black women on multiple levels, We get overlooked, disregarded, forgotten due to our perceived status, and then we get underrepresented because we're seen as devalued. Because it's like if we're not in the limelight enough for certain things, then we just get dismissed.
And we're part of two underrepresented groups. We're black
Yep.
and we're women.
Yep. So people don't just discard.
Yeah.
When you look at the hypervisibility, black women are both disproportionately visible and associated with negative stereotypes. From the mammy, the welfare queen, the quota queen. I
The
mean,
twerk
and the
queen.
twerk, I was just about to say that because you look at the images nowadays, right? I really struggle to find any positive, endearing images of black women consistently in the media.
Mm.
Think about it, because look at all the Real Housewives of whatever hip hop, whatever, and like there's nothing redeeming about those to me. I mean, I get it. It's trash. Some people enjoy it. I get it. It's a departure for some folks. But think about it. There's nothing to counter that. When my sister moved overseas to Hong Kong, they thought that my brother-in-law was a rapper or an athlete. There was no other option because those are the only images they see. Or are you a housewife? Like it was just they assumed my sister watched all that stuff, and because they have no other images, there's nothing to counter that. So it desensitizes us and the public to be like, well, look at them. They're ratchet anyway. Look at the baddies. You look at anything on Zeus Network, which is, oh my gosh, that is a whole, whoo, my Lord. Anyway, oh my gosh. Oh my God. Look at Krishan, who's just ready to like fight everybody. If y'all know who that is, then y'all know who that is. I'm not gonna go into it. Who's just gonna fight her blue face baby daddy or something, and people thrive off of that. Housewives of who's fighting who and who's undercutting who and who like there's no redeeming uplifting ways to value us as black women to make it work to the media to say we're worth saving. And it
Mm.
doesn't make it right. But when you think about it, they're like, if they're looking at you and you see that you fighting each other over some dude that isn't treating you right in the first place, or you out here twerking and showing your whole goodies just for everybody to see, and you're not contributing to society in any positive way, they're like, why would we save them anyway? What are we
Right.
saving them for? Because this is
Right.
what they're doing. And it's messed up in that way because it's like, why is no one listening to us? And then you think about, well, if I'm seeing these things and this is how they act and they're not adding value to society. So
Right.
it's okay if they go missing. Who cares?
And see, for me, I teeter, right?
Mhm.
Because on one hand, I agree, right?
Mhm.
On one hand, I do wish that we weren't just seen as twerkers with
Yep.
BBLs and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I do. Like
Yeah, I
and I
totally forgot
do
about the BBL
lend
craze too.
yeah, I do understand the concern about the images that are being shown and how black women are being seen.
Mhm.
But in the same breath, I'm on the opposite side. Say, why do we have to? White women have the freedom and the autonomy
Yes.
to act and be however they want.
I
They don't
agree.
have. They don't get policed in the same ways
Mhm.
as we do. The Kardashians have built
A
a dynasty
whole dynasty. I agree with you.
off of the things that black women naturally are.
Yes. Speech on
And
that.
we,
Mm.
if you say something negative about them, you're just a hater. You
Yep.
don't like them because they're white and you just are mad because of X, Y, and Z. These are women who have baby daddies,
Mhm.
okay?
Butt stuff,
And
lip stuff,
all
all of
kinds of
this
stuff.
stuff.
And
Enhancements.
no one bats an eye. And when they do, it's just like you get told to shut up. But
Mhm.
when black women do it, we police them. We police their
I'll
sexuality.
give you that.
We
Yeah.
tell them you're doing too much because you're being seen in this negative way. And then, but in the same breath, it's like, well, they were never going to see us positive anyway. So
Hmm.
it don't matter if I'm a respectable Negro and
Right.
I come out respectable. They're
Mhm.
still going to see me as less than anyway because you can shine it up. But if they think it's shit, it's still shit.
To them, it's true.
You
And
understand
our
what I'm saying?
yeah,
There are
and our
some
media
people.
is the one who does. We do it to a lot of times.
Well,
We
we
do
do
it
it
to
to
we
ourselves
do it to ourselves for some of it.
for
So
some of
then
it, but
for
then
some of
it's
it,
like, and I like it's kind of reminding me of I just saw they clone Tyrone, and a lot of this is
right? Oh, that was
and that
so. That movie was so big, so thought
it
provoking.
was.
I wonder if people are actually gonna get what it is they were
I
talking
don't
about.
know because the theme. I mean, consumerism is at the heart of what's wrong with Black people,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
But I just look at it and it's just like you can present me and you can present. I don't want to use Megan Thee Stallion, but let's just say I don't know if y'all
What
know
about the City
Sukiana.
Girls from Museum?
Okay,
I like Megan.
yes, I do too. So that's why I was like, I don't want to use Megan. And I kind of like the City Girls too. I don't
Me
know if you know
too.
Sukiana, but
Oh, yeah.
that's a good example.
Okay.
You could bring both of us to the forefront, and there are going to be people who are going to look at us exactly the same. They're not going to see
Mm,
any difference between her and I when there are obvious,
yes.
stark
Obvious
differences
Starkson. Yeah.
between the both of us, right?
Yeah.
So I get it in one respect, but here's the
Mm-hmm.
thing: you have someone like India Arie who made statements about how we're perceived,
Mm-hmm.
but people look at her the same way there's some people who look at her the
Yep.
same way they're going to look at. They don't give up. They just don't. Excuse my language. Don't give a fuck. You're a
Mm-hmm.
nigga, and that's it.
That's
So
it.
they
End
don't
of the day.
care if you're twerking or if you are dressed in a hijab. You're still trash to them.
Yeah.
And so I do respect this younger generation where they're like, you gonna see me how you gonna see me anyway, so I'm gonna just do me.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna tailor
Right.
and cater who I am to make you feel comfortable.
Right.
And I'm not going to make myself look better because somehow that's gonna elevate our people.
Right.
Because when
It's
we
like,
see
oh,
with
you like you
Carly,
said, you're the good Negro.
right, because with Carly Russell, we see even with
Whew.
this, yes, she really set us back? But we could talk about that
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
moving into it. Let's take a quick break and then we'll come back and start doing some contrast and comparison.
Okay, cool.
And we're back. So, we just talked about invisibility, hypervisibility. We talked
Mm-hmm.
about, the overall construct of the white woman syndrome. But I think it's good to go into some actual examples, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the examples of where this played out is when we look at Lacey Peterson and Evelyn Hernandez. You probably have never even heard of an Evelyn Hernandez, right?
Mm-hmm.
Evelyn Hernandez actually disappeared 7 months before Lacey Peterson.
Mm.
She was 24 years old, and she was 9 months pregnant, and she was a Salvadorian immigrant, and she lived in San Francisco with her son, who was American, and he was 6 years old. Her
Mm.
torso was found 3 months later in the San Francisco Bay, while Alex remains were missing. Now, I'll say this. You probably did hear about Evelyn Hernandez in the Lacey Peterson news coverage because they said, oh, yeah, we found a body a few months ago, torso.
Mm-hmm.
So they thought maybe it could potentially be like maybe a serial killer who's
Right.
going around because there were so many similarities.
Right.
Now, Lacey Peterson was killed by her husband, 8 months pregnant. He did the same thing and tossed her in the San Francisco Bay, and he got charged for first-degree murder of her death and second-degree murder of their unborn son.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for Evelyn, they didn't even hold their first press conference until a month after she had disappeared,
That's crazy.
when the homicide unit took over. So that right there delayed eyewitnesses, evidence.
Yep.
I mean, if you watch the first 48, they tell you it's crucial. Those
Whew.
first 48 at first
Crucial.
48 hours are crucial. And it's rare for a pregnant woman to go missing. So why didn't they jump into action like they did with Lacey Peterson?
Mm. Yeah.
Now, at the time of Lacey Peterson's disappearance, 30 police officers were tasked with her search. They had helicopters, dogs, bicycles. They had
The
house-mounted,
community.
horse-mounted officers, water rescue units. Nearly 900 volunteers,
Mm.
civilians, helped search for her. Okay? So I'm just saying,
Yeah. About that. About that.
now, that's one situation, right? And these women are very similar, right?
Yeah.
Both pregnant women, both young.
Mm.
But look who got the attention and who didn't.
Repeated and Lifetime Movie Networks movies. Several.
And
Several
I don't believe they ever
movies.
even found out what happened to Evelyn Hernandez. Like
It went
who did
cold.
it? Yeah. So the next case is Natalie Holloway and Latoya Figueroa. Who's Latoya Figueroa, you may ask?
Mm.
Well, excuse me, I'm so sorry, guys. Latoya Figueroa, this happened in Philly. She was a 24-year-old, 5-month pregnant Afro Latina waitress who disappeared after leaving a prenatal care session. And a month later, her remains were found outside of Philadelphia in an area. They would call it a suburb, but it ain't
Mm-hmm.
really suburb. It's urban. It's very urban. Chester,
Mm-hmm.
Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay. Now, several weeks before she went missing, Natalie Holloway was an 18-year-old American teenager in Aruba. She
That was
graduated.
Aruba, huh? Forgot about
Yeah,
that.
she graduated from a from high school. Went on a class trip from a well-to-do family in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
Her remains have yet to be found, but they did charge. Didn't they charge that guy
Mm-hmm.
with
They
her
did.
disappearance?
They did. At one point, it was
Now,
like him and another guy, but one guy ultimately.
yes, now they're still talking about her to
Mm-hmm.
this day.
Mm-hmm. I
They
heard
got,
something about her not too long ago, maybe 6 months ago.
yeah, the family got all the resources they needed. Granted, the family also came from money, so
Yeah.
they were able to put their own resources into
Mm-hmm.
finding out what happened to their child. But Latoya's family, they had to get what they could get.
Mm. So sad
It
on
is
both
very
accounts.
sad.
It's been, and like we said, we're not diminishing one from the other. We're just highlighting and elevating the fact that one person who may look a particular way, who does look a particular way, gets more attention, more resources than someone who does not fit that, I guess, profile, if you will.
Yes, that mold.
That mold. That mold.
So the next one is Elizabeth Smart and Alexis Patterson.
Bless you. She just sneezed.
Thank you. A 7-year-old African American girl disappeared after being dropped off at her Milwaukee, Wisconsin elementary school. Okay? No
Mm-hmm.
traces of her have ever been found. She disappeared just 1 month before Elizabeth Smart was abducted in Utah.
Mm. 1 month, y'all. That's only time difference.
Has anybody ever heard of her? I didn't.
I didn't. Not until you brought her up in this.
And every time when I did research for this and I would look for a notable case where the white woman syndrome was apparent,
Mm-hmm.
I found the counterpart and I had never heard of them.
Mm.
The only one I heard of was Latoya Figueroa because it was in Philly. And I remember it getting a lot of coverage in Philly,
Mm.
but not anywhere
National.
else. And I'm from Philly.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and if I'm not mistaken, let me see what time. This was in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
I was still I think I was still like transitioning back and forth from Philly to Maryland at that time.
Uh-huh.
So
It's,
I think that's why I heard of it. But other than that, no.
yeah.
And then the last one, which is more recent, is Gabby Petito
Hmm.
and
There's a
Jelani
lot of
Day.
press on that one.
A whole lot of press on this girl.
Whole lot of press on that
She was killed by her fiance while traveling together on a van life journey across the United States.
one. Mm-hmm.
But Jelani Day was a graduate student at Illinois State University. He was reported missing. His car was later found in a wooded area with his clothing still inside. And then 1 week later, they found his body. That is a mysterious death.
Very.
Why haven't we heard more about that?
Because he was a black male, number one. And we know, unfortunately, how America has viewed our black men from the beginning of time.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking about, and then you compare that with a white woman that it's like he didn't even stand a chance to get the press to understand what was going on,
Yeah,
you know? So it's unfortunate on multiple levels how that is working out.
it's sad. And as we struggle, both of us
We're
trying to
on the
get through.
struggle bus today.
Yeah,
I'm a little congested.
yes. It's sad. And my sister will probably be able to clean up most of my coughing and hacking, but it's
Okay.
just sad to look at these situations
Yeah,
and realize that it is in real time, right?
it
That
is.
they really don't give a fuck about us.
Yeah. It's so upsetting, and then when we get into to what has gone on with the Carly Russell situation and the after effects of what has happened with that. So this all happened while I was out of the country. So I wasn't like up to snuff as to what was going on because I kind of tried to disconnect. But to give you the background for those of you who don't know, you know, um, is this American nursing student called Carletha, also known as Carly, Nicolay Russell, was born in the late 90s, 97, 98. Apparently disappeared for about 49 hours from her home in Alabama. She falsely reported to the police about what her disappearance had entailed and why she was abducted. It went viral on TikTok and other social media platforms. And then on July 24th, she came back and said, "Oh, she made it up. It had not been abducted." So on the background of the story, she made a 911 call on the night of July 13th around 9:30. She says that she was stopped by the side of the road and having been seen having said she saw an unattended toddler on the road, and that's why she stopped. She called her family to report the situation before losing contact with them, and then next thing her car was found by the side of the road and near the location she had described to her family. And then she appeared to her family's house, 49 hours later, and she was questioned by the police. She was interviewed, say that she was abducted by a male, placed inside a tractor trailer. She tried to escape and then was recaptured and then placed in a car, undressed, photographed, but didn't have any ligature marks. She wasn't tied up to I guess not have ligature marks on her arms or something. Um, and then eventually she escaped and was able to return home. But then when it came out and when they did some background check because the story wasn't adding up. They
The
went
math wasn't
the
mathing.
mathing, right. The math was not mathing, right? And then the days prior to her disappearance, they found out she had done online queries looking at, do you have to pay for Amber Alert? How to take money from a register without being caught? The Birmingham bus station, one-way tickets, regarding abductions, looking at the film Taken. You know, um, they had not found, and then the police was like, well, we didn't find any evidence to back up what it is this story that she's taken. Only come to find out that it had to do with her ex-boyfriend and his relationship or dealings with this other female who happened to be a stripper, and
Mm-hmm.
her distraughtness of it had how that situation kind of came to be, right? So then where does this leave us now? Because people are already not looking for us, right? As a rule,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah.
So then the question, I think, and we talked about this in our group. So, well, then it makes us question now, will the next report of a missing black woman be taken less seriously because of her shenanigans?
Um,
Regardless that this happens all the time with other counterparts, you know? And then, right. And it's just makes you kind of wonder, Well, how are we supposed to address this? Because Black people account for 39% of missing people in 2022, according to the Black and Missing Foundation.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
40% of the missing people in 2022 were Black.
Black. Like, let that sit with you for a minute. 40%. 40%. More than 30,000 Black people in the U.S. remain missing at the end of 2022. Half of those cases were missing Black women and girls from the National Crimes Information Center. And then you look at given this disproportionate data, that missing Black women are often ignored, what happened with Russell's case is uncommon. Like, for her to get press, and I do think because of her certain organizations that she was in, there were elevated attention given to that.
I don't even think that. I'm gonna tell
No?
you, no.
Because that's where I first saw it, was on the chat for that, but otherwise I hadn't heard about it.
I'm gonna tell you what I think it got attention for two reasons.
Mm-hmm.
One, Negroes tend to be conspiracy theorists, and as soon as something don't seem right, we go straight into conspiracies.
Yeah.
And people said, oh yeah, that's what they do when they abduct people, when they traffic people. They lure them with kids on the side of the road, right?
Yeah.
So I think that was
that's
the first
like an
thing.
urban legend for
it's
a while.
Urban legend, right?
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I think that the media and the police gave attention. It wasn't because of Carly. It was because she saw a child on the road.
That was the trigger point.
If you tell me you see a white baby walking on the side of an interstate, they don't give a they didn't give a shit about her. They were looking for her to get to the kid. So I feel like had she not thrown that little piece in there,
yeah,
we wouldn't have gotten attention. Now, I will say, if that hadn't been the case, then yes, it probably would have been elevated through other channels,
right?
Through social organizations and social media. But I'm talking about the beginning stages of this. Let's be clear. That bitch said she saw a white baby on the side of the road, and they went into Power Ranger morph time.
Right.
That's why. That's the only reason why. Any other reason is bullshit.
Yeah. Think about it, y'all. If there's a baby on the side of the road, how quick and fast the troops ascended on addressing what's going on with that in real time.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And then it comes to question, should she be punished or held accountable for what has happened? She was charged.
Before we go there, though, because I do want to talk about accountability, but I do want to spend a little bit more time on, is it going to be taken less seriously?
Right.
And I will say no, because it wasn't ever taken seriously in the first place. We were never taken seriously enough. However, I do feel like we as a collective will be very mindful about pushing forward cases of missing Black women and girls. Because again, there was never any coverage. There was never any coverage on us. And and the coverage may come because it's like, oh, let's see if she lying like this other person was lying.
Right. And then they're going to go to the trope of what I talked about earlier with identifying the negative aspects of that person's life.
Right.
Perceived, real or not, but perceived.
Right.
Or the family. Because if they can't find anything wrong with the person that's been abducted, then they shift to the negative aspects in the surrounding family.
Right. And I mean, the thing is with her, I think the other issue here that we're finding is that it was, okay, she was educated. I'm going to make the assumption she came from maybe like a middle class family.
I think so.
Her parents are still together. Both her parents were still together, I believe.
Yes.
She, seemed to have it all together. She was in school to be an RN. She was
struggling in school, but she was still in school.
Right. So when you look at it from that perspective, it's like, okay, we can't attack her that way.
Right.
So let's find out where the the deficit is.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the deficiency here?
Mm-hmm.
The deficiency is, oh, this is all over a man.
Right. And her lack of coping mechanisms.
Right. When in actuality, let's be clear, white women have done this over men as well.
That's why there's Lifetime Movie Network.
I mean, the runaway bride, sure, it
Yep.
wasn't because she was upset that they were breaking up, but it was still over a man.
Mm-hmm.
We white women have done things like this over failed
Decades.
relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why is it that if this black woman is doing it now, she's vilified? I mean, and I'm not saying that she's not wrong,
Right.
because she is, but let's also look at how, again, the disparity in how these situations are treated. And then she's
Mm-hmm.
smiling in her mugshot, right? So clearly, to me, while everybody else was on Twitter, well, not even Twitter anymore, because I don't even
Yeah.
know what that is.
I don't know what we're gonna do without that.
Social media making jokes and kikiing about it, and then
Right.
saying, "Oh, I was praying for her, and she got a nerve to be smiling in her mugshot." When I looked at that, I was like, "This girl's gone,
Mm.
gone. Something's missing. The
Mm-hmm.
elevator ain't reaching all the way to the top.
Right. Because
You
that
can
is a
see it in her eyes."
whole thing of, and it kind of harkens back to like conversations we've had with different about the coping mechanisms of different generations
Yeah,
and the participation awards society where they can't cope with. I mean, we've been through some shit in our generation, right?
yeah, yeah,
And we've had to suck it up to a point and move on with certain things. But this generation, so the younger generation, I won't say this, but younger generations after us have been coddled by us because we have been put through so much stuff, unfortunately,
yeah.
that now they cannot handle a lot of them. And this is not to take away if she has mental health issues and challenges, and I hope she gets the help she needs. But even so, like the logical deductive reasoning of how to handle a situation is from 0 to 100.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why would you automatically think, now he broke up with me or we broke up, now I'm gonna go missing? Like, how do you get to that point? How do you get from point A to point Z for it to be on this level that you orchestrate such a story because you've been heartbroken and you can't, unfortunately, handle the situation as it has been dealt to you in a better way than what it is that you did?
I don't know. I don't know. And even with that, we still go back to, well, where does that leave us, right?
Right, right.
Yes, there's mental health things need to be in place, but now we need to figure out, how are we as a community going to ensure that the next person that
Mm-hmm.
goes missing gets taken seriously and gets as much coverage and as much support as their white counterpart.
Right,
And I feel like it's one of those situations where there's certain, like the Twitter of old, where you had Black Twitter.
right.
Black Twitter was really responsible for pushing a lot of these stories to the forefront, and that's kind of gone. So where do you go now? I mean, there is a Black TikTok, and you
Yeah,
can get that information from TikTok if you choose to find it, but it's not in real time like it is with Twitter, right?
right. Like the impact
Um,
that it had.
right. Twitter had a very unique way of addressing things in real time.
Yeah,
Um, I think we really have to be careful about how we proceed after this, because now this is the second situation in which a Black person has come to say that they did something, has happened to them that has not.
right.
Because we have Jussie Smollett.
Ah, that too. Forgot about that foolishness. And then they will pull those two out versus how many other situations has happened multiple times, but though
Mm-hmm.
people might be inclined to pull out those two situations,
Yeah.
and be like, see, and it's all on how the media and news coverage elevate that, and then
Yeah.
of course we counter it with the jokes and the hee and
Because that's
kiki,
what we
and
do, right?
because that's what we
So
do.
we diminish ourselves even more, because
Mhm.
in actuality, isn't it the, like, when all this dust settles, aren't we just glad she's home safe,
Yeah.
regardless of what the circumstances were that surrounded it? Aren't we just glad that she got home safe? And shouldn't our focus and our attention just be on that, as opposed to, I mean, yes, we kiki it up.
Mhm.
I'm less likely now, the older I get. I don't make light or fun of certain situations anymore. I don't like make jokes, especially at the expense of black women,
Mhm.
just because I think it's just it's tacky, and it's just like we are such a creative collective. We don't always need to stoop to the lowest of
Right.
toilet bowl humor to make people laugh, right?
Right.
But I just wish, I hope for us, my hope is that we kind of stick together the
Mhm.
next time a situation like this happens,
Right.
to really make sure that if it turns out to be that this is a situation where the person is definitely harmed, that they're getting the attention that is
They
needed
deserve.
to elevate their case to the national spotlight.
Right.
And I
Mm.
feel like even if it was someone who was like us that went missing, and what I mean by that is like, you know, upper middle class,
Mhm.
you know, work great jobs, married, have
Mhm.
families, you know, productive citizens of of society. If somebody like us went missing,
Right.
attractive,
Mhm.
what would the news coverage look like?
Yeah.
Would
Would
it be
they
any different?
would it be any different? Would they highlight, let's say that we're both graduates, or we both have multiple degrees, that we work in the federal system? Like, how would they
No, they're going.
characterize
What they'll
us?
do is, oh, they're gonna talk to such and such and such. Oh, I remember her. Mm-mm. She be smoking weed and she be.
Mm,
You don't understand what I'm saying?
yeah.
They're going to find
It's
a
how are they gonna
way
spin it?
to diminish your character in some capacity.
Yeah. To make us less human, so that there's less care and interest taken in to what should be a serious situation.
Right. Because even I'm guilty of it, I'll say. I remember having a conversation with somebody and they were like, yeah, because traffic. I was like, don't nobody want to traffic your ass. And I was like, why did I do that? Because
Right.
I'm like, I'm diminishing the fact that you could be trafficked
Mhm.
just
Right.
because I don't think that you fit what I've
That
been
mold is.
I've been brainwashed to believe with the mold is to be trafficked, sex trafficked. You understand what I'm saying?
Right. Like, you don't I just like and I was telling y'all, I was in New Orleans a couple weeks ago for work, and I got in my Uber, and the lady was talking to her. I said, "Oh yeah, I'm going to New Orleans." She's like, "Girl, be careful." And I was like, "Wow, that was quick." She's like, "They traffic down there." And she's like, "Ain't you cute?" I said, "Excuse me?" She said, "I went down with 5 of my girlfriends, and one of us got was not who was unfortunately intoxicated, was not paying attention, and she was the sober one in the group, and they just there enjoying themselves, and this guy kept badgering them, and one of them ended up getting in a car, and she had to go get her out the car because the car found out the car had no license plate or the van or whatever, and they realized they were about to get snatched. And then when I went down there for work, I went to one of my clients, and they were like, "So are you here by yourself?" And I said, "Technically, but I'm here with my colleagues." They're like, "Yeah, well, if you're not here with anybody from New Orleans, then you need to be mindful or just stay in your hotel." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "The trafficking down here, because no one pays attention to us as Black women, it is very pervasive in parts of New Orleans.
Mm,
But we don't talk about it because we're Black, because the people that have been getting snatched are Black women."
mm,
And I was just like, "Wow, okay." Not what I expected to hear when I went to New Orleans. She's like, "Even from being by myself to being in a group." And it
right,
goes to what you're saying about who's gonna traffic your, type of thing, and you really don't know, because the point of trafficking is a return on their investment, if you will.
right,
And I'm putting that very high level, so to speak. Um, but then so how do we address this? How do we hold people accountable? Should they be punished? Should they be charged? And will that help or hurt us down the line? Because it's like, okay, they were held accountable, but were other people that are not brown or Black held accountable as well? Because ultimately, Carly was charged with false reporting to law enforcement, and then, and then both crimes are misdemeanors. and each charge carries $1,000 bond, right? So, do
I
we
feel
think
like
that
she should,
was?
yes, I feel like she should be punished. I feel like she should
Mm-hmm.
be held accountable. I feel like she should have to pay restitution, meaning
Uh-huh.
taxpayer dollars that went into searching for her ass. But I also feel like, because she wasted resources,
Yes.
lots of resources. So I
Yes.
feel like she should be responsible for paying back that money for those resources. And I feel like um, she also, I feel like she should have community service, and her community
Yes.
service should be in a center that deals specifically
Yes.
with missing Black women and
Yes.
children, so
Agreed.
she could see
What that
how
looks like.
fucked up what she did was, and
Mm-hmm.
how there are really people out here that
Hmm.
you took resources away from
Right.
that needed that.
Mm-hmm. I
Even
agree.
though on the flip side, those resources were used for her, but not really used for her. They were used to find this damn white baby you said was walking down the interstate.
Because that's who they was looking for.
So absolutely, she should be charged.
Right. And I
Um,
definitely agree that she needs to understand and either go stay with some parents or go have some sort of communication with parents whose children really have been abducted,
mm,
who also those individuals who have been abducted and returned, fortunately, and understand what those individuals had to go through, and at least make, and I hate to say this in the sense of make an example of her in that regard, but really let it resonate with her that she can flip this and turn this into some advocacy thing for looking for Black women. I don't know if that's her restitution, if that will come to fruition, because I still think she got some other stuff going on with her that she needs to have addressed. But there's that type of restitution I think would be appropriate for
and I
for
feel
this.
like it has to be, the punishment has to be strong enough to deter other people. Now
Yeah.
let's be clear. There are going to be people who are going to do this again.
Mm,
White, black, green,
whatever.
indifferent. But I do feel as though it needs to be harsh enough to
Mhm.
prevent somebody else from doing this.
Right.
But I also feel like this needs to be an opportunity to bring to light the fact that there are so many marginalized groups that do not get this type of attention.
Agreed.
And the fact that it got this amount of attention made people automatically assume that it was wrong anyway. Because there were people like, hey, they ain't never care about a Black woman getting kidnapped.
Mm.
This is a hoax. That's what people were saying on
Right.
social media.
Because it's doesn't happen. The fact that that inherently is a huge problem that people thought because there was so much attention to it, this can't be real. Like, think about that for a minute. Because a Black woman got attention for missing, people, because it happens, does not happen, or so rarely happens, people didn't believe that she actually got taken.
But they were right.
I mean, they
But it
were
was
right, but
based in the fact that
right.
we never get this amount of attention.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, I just hope that this episode just brings some light to like the white woman syndrome, white women missing white woman syndrome. It shows the disparity. I hope that some of you take the time to actually go and dig further into this phenomena and kind of see other situations, other cases, because there are a lot of other situations that I could
Mm,
have brought to the forefront to show you that this happens all the time.
it really does.
But I also hope that you don't let Carly's situation deter you from sharing and promoting um, stories of missing Black women, girls, young men, and trying to help their families locate them and bring them
Mhm.
home safely. So
Yeah.
we're going to go ahead and take a quick break and come back with our last sip. And this is our last sip of tea. You cannot miss what is not seen, and because the U.S. society often renders Black women invisible, public outcry may be muted or absent when we go missing. So I just want to highlight a couple of missing individuals currently. One, two in this area, one not in this area, but they're young, and so I just really hope that if you are listening and you're in these areas, that you know, just be vigilant and report if anything, if you see anything or if you know anything. So the first currently missing is Janiyah Duffy, reported as a runaway in Spalding County, Georgia. She was last seen on July 19th. She's 15 years old, 5 feet, 7 inches, 140 pounds. She was last seen wearing blue shorts with a design and a red jacket. If you have any information regarding her whereabouts, contact the Spalding County Sheriff's investigator at 770-467-4282, extension 31580. Authorities believe that she may be in the Lovejoy area. The next missing is Jessica Abba. Circumstances surrounding her disappearance at this time are unknown. She was last seen June 4th, 2002. I'm sorry, 2022 in the 8200 block of North Lake Court in Laurel, Maryland. She was last seen wearing a tan blouse, blue jeans, and open toe sandals. 15 years old, 120 pounds. And last is Sophia Roach, believed unfortunately to have been lured online, last seen in Rockville, Maryland on July 11th at around 9:30 p.m. in the 5600 block of Whitney Mill Way. Also 15 years old, 5 feet 2 inches, 110 pounds, and they described her as biracial. And the only reason why I'm adding that is because it just
Mm-hmm.
gives some visual
Yeah.
context to what she may look like. Um, if you have any information on any of these missing young women or of any missing women, please reach out to the Black and Missing Foundation at 877-97-BAMFI. That's 877-972-2634. Know that you don't have to have a mandatory waiting period to report anyone um, missing. So
Mm-hmm.
if you know of someone missing, please report them. This is an organization for us, by us. They also have an Instagram page. So if you search Black and Missing Foundation, you will be able to find their information there. They post missing individuals and provide updates when they can. I highly suggest that you follow them and see if, maybe there's someone you may have seen and thought that the situation in which you saw them was kind of sketchy. Just please, there's so many of us missing,
Mm.
and it's, you can support them financially as well by making donations, maybe even trying to support them by volunteering for any efforts that they have in different areas.
Mm-hmm.
But just please support in any way that you can this foundation, because it's very important. Like I said, what was it, 30,000 went missing
Yeah.
in 2022 last year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an astounding rate, 39% of us.
That's huge, y'all.
So just do what you can and support where you can, and let's just try to bring these people home, our people, our Black and brown people.
Amen to that. So thank you all for joining us this week on Sippin' Tea with Nat and Z. You can follow us on Instagram at sippintea_Nat and Z_pod, and on Facebook at Sippin' Tea Nat and Z to get information on upcoming podcasts, topics, guests, and news. Thanks for listening, and catch us next episode where we get into the power of rest. Be safe, everybody. Have a great week.